All right.
All right.
Make sure I
So
get
I came up with names. Nah, I just came up with one name. It's called Watching Wire. I don't know.
WW Wire Watch.
Yeah, Wire
Watching the
Watchers,
Wire.
Watching Wire.
The only thing
Instead
I
of
came out. The only thing I came out with was Firewire.
what's the fire come into
I
play?
don't
How does
know.
that? I was thinking like
Rhyme.
Talking Dead, Talking Bad. Well, we're not Talking Wire. That sounds good as Watching Wire. But we're not actually
There-
watching. We're talking about it. So maybe you should be Talking Wire.
Walking Wire. There's some idea. See, I feel like that's theirs though, right? That's like AMC. I had I have ideas also, but it like you have to start seeing the show to get it. But like
Okay.
Omar coming, everyone would get that. Everyone
Omar coming.
Omar coming, everyone would get.
Mm. All right. I look forward to getting that.
Let's make the working title Omar coming.
Okay. Working title Omar coming.
Omar coming, a conversation about The Wire.
Yep, and this is my first time ever watching the show. Period. I've heard great things. My first introduction was in college. I know a lot of people were watching it. Actually, my one of my roommates at the time, he was pledging Kappa, and he's from Baltimore, and his name on the back of his whatever you call it jersey was The Wire. So, and I didn't get it at the time because I didn't watch. I'm like, what does that mean? But Baltimore, The Wire. That's the connection,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah, in the hearts of Baltimore. So you never watched even like an episode?
Never watched an episode. I may have seen a scene in passing when someone else was watching, but I've never seen an episode before the first one that we watched together. That was my
Yeah.
first complete episode ever.
Do you ever see anyone from The Wire in stuff and people are all like, oh, that's the guy from The Wire?
I see them all the time, especially after seeing the first episode. There's a lot more actors in there than I realized, but I never really hear anyone refer to them as the guy from The Wire. I feel like a lot of actors have built their own things beyond The Wire. Maybe Wendell Pierce. He's like kind of known for The Wire, I guess. He's the main one where that's his main thing, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So that'll be pretty. This will be pretty interesting.
Yeah. So now, as a person who has watched it, how many times have you watched the series overall? Countless, or?
I literally just watched season 1 like a month and a half ago.
Okay, so to me, Breaking Bad, that's the series for me, where it's like I'm constantly always rewatching episodes and I just watch it all the time. So does this show have that rewatchability, or is it just the payoffs for the stories is what make it great? What makes this the best show ever, according to everybody?
It's very intricate. Every time I watch The Wire, there's a detail, an inner working, a side piece of dialogue, some B-roll footage, a character from a previous season that I didn't realize was there for that. I didn't realize was there and didn't realize was there for a very specific reason. Every time I pick up something completely new. The whole, and because the show, and I think that's what's so cool about the show is life.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff about the show, but that like gets people going like, oh my gosh. One thing I think the show isn't is I don't think it's shock value. It's written by two guys who worked in Baltimore for the police department and for the newspaper. So it's people who grew up, David Simon.
David Simon, I'm familiar with him.
Yeah, and Ed
but
Burns.
Now who's the co-writer?
Ed Burns.
Ed Burns. That name sounds familiar.
He's a retired police officer from Baltimore. So a lot of these stories are based on real stories from the Baltimore inner cities, drug world down there that these guys covered, or these guys had heard legend about, or had messed around with and done stuff with in real life. And so a lot of the show is based on real life. And so there's just so many little things that they put in here that help build out that world, build out that life, from who's in a bar to the look that people get to motivations that characters may have seasons down the road. Everything really means something.
Okay.
Especially in this season, there's a lot of conversation, one that happened in this episode that we'll talk about, that just blow my mind, that I analyze over and over again as far as what does that mean for the character Does that mean the character is stupid? Like there's a lot of commentary in the dialogue, the things that these characters choose to say that say a lot about the characters.
Okay, so let's jump right in because I'm really interested now. So let's do a synopsis of the episode,
sure.
and then we'll start from there.
Sure. Full disclosure, I'm reading my synopsis here off of Wikipedia. We're going to just go through some of the main points to make sure we don't miss any of the show so that everyone's kind of going along with us. But the show starts off with Jimmy McNulty with a murder. And is it Snot Boogie, right? It's Snot Boogie on the ground. And
not to cut you off, but I love this story of how Snot got his name. It's just, he humanized him, a dead character. You know, that's just great writing.
It's a simple, very simple story. A guy who I guess was shooting dice with some people in the neighborhood who know him every time, and he's got a reputation of snatching and running. Every time the pot gets big, he takes the money and runs, and everyone beats his ass. But this time it went too far, and so that's the story McNulty's kind of dealing with, and he's trying to get into the mindset of street code, in my opinion. You know, the whole idea that you let him play, even though this is what he always did, because there was some sort of
this is America.
This is America. Gotta let him play. And that's, you know, the fact that they're showing that this kid and the group of people who presumably someone from this group killed him, apparently 99 times prior let it slide, and someone took it too far, which this kid is very upset about, which is, I don't know, profound to me.
What is profound about it is the fact that, what about it is profound to you?
They took the time to actually express that. It wasn't just a one and done of, here's a guy who we were playing dice and we're street kids here, and then here's this homeless guy who came up and tried to steal our pot. No, we're all equals, and this homeless guy comes and plays with us every day, does the same thing. We never let him stop him, because who are we to stop him from shooting dice? That's not how things usually play out in TV shows or movies.
I agree. Yeah.
Hollywood, the more dramatic Hollywood way to do it would be, there was this big dramatic thing where this guy came in and tried to rob us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to draw a comparison, because now that you retold the story, it reminds me of, I don't know if you watch Atlanta on FX, Donald Glover's show.
I've seen most of it. I felt
okay, so have you seen episode 2 of season 1 where they're in the lockup basically, and there's a mentally challenged person and he spits on the officer, he spits the toilet water on the officer? Mm-hmm. It reminds me of that a little bit. Do you remember that scene that I'm talking about? Basically, Ern is sitting in the lockup area waiting to get processed, and there's this mentally challenged person who's like messing around. People are laughing at him. He's cutting up, as they put it. And then he went and gets toilet water and puts it in like this little whatever drinking cup, and he starts drinking it. Everyone's like, ah! And it's like, he's mentally challenged. He gets locked up every week. Every week, and Ern's like, so they know that, and they lock him up every week anyway, and it's just kind of like the inertia of just doing the same thing. It just reminds me of that. That's all.
I think to put that as your first, as the first thing that you see is just, I don't know, for someone that I feel like doesn't do things by accident, I thought it was pretty interesting that that's what they chose to make the first scene.
Cool. All right, so we move on. How do you pronounce his name? Because I'm not gonna. McNulty. All right, so McNulty does what from here? Now he's finished talking about Snot Boogie's murder, and then he goes back to the station, right?
I think they're in the courthouse, right?
Oh, no, right, the courthouse, yeah, because that's where Idris Elba's character is manipulating the proceedings in the court from afar.
Yeah. So I guess that D'Angelo is in jail. Or D'Angelo's in custody, having his trial, the witnesses on the stand, and the entire Barksdale crew, as we'll come to know, is in the courtroom. In the background, Stringer Bell. And they're basically trying out a murder case with D'Angelo Barksdale. We don't really know anyone's relation at this point, and we don't even know about Avon or anything. But
who's Avon?
Avon is Wood Harris.
Copy.
And so basically we are seeing McNulty's in the court, but we find out quickly that it's not even his case.
Mm-hmm.
And so
which I didn't register right away. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. and he's got a dialogue silently going on with Stringer Bell, who is making it clear that he's the bad guy. And we find out that the court's trying D'Angelo. The witness points him out. One witness points him out, but another witness just completely changes her testimony. Did you get that?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was very clear that he was manipulating that situation just by looking at her. Like he was calling the shots from afar. Stringer Bell, right? That's his name?
Yeah, exactly. So McNulty tries to tell the actual arresting officer that his case is about to get blown up. Of course, no one believes it. The judge that's in this case ends up being somewhat pivotal in the show, pulls Jimmy aside after the court case. And, first of all, what did you think about the crew in the case? This is your first time kind of seeing everyone for the first time. What did you think about the crew in the courtroom?
Again, Stringer Bell, clearly he possessed some sort of power within this world, even though he's not your stereotypical gangster, clearly. I assumed he was some sort of professional. And then once I realized that it wasn't McNulty. I'm gonna remember that right before this episode's over. Once I realized it wasn't McNulty's case, I was confused. But then I'm like, okay, he has a stake in whatever's happening and to this person who's on trial. So yeah, I was intrigued. I thought I was just getting the feel for everybody's stakes and what their motivations were.
Yeah. So then I guess.
Oh, and then what's the name of the guy? D'Angelo. His situation was interesting to me because he never really seemed scared. Never really seemed like he was worried about what the outcome of the case was going to be. So I thought that was interesting too. I thought he was in the bag for him. So.
Okay. There's a point there where McNulty then starts talking to the judge, and the judge in chambers asks him about the whole crew, and McNulty kind of throws up all over his desk, telling him basically everything he knows about drug trafficking in which surrounds who that was in the judge's room.
And that was kind of the inciting incident of the whole, it sounds like the series, right? It sounds like that's kicking off like this task force that's being assembled, and not to jump ahead too much, I'm sure we'll talk about that more. But yeah, it seems like just that conversation with the judge, it really caused the chain reaction to every other set of characters. That was the one through line that I did notice amongst the confusion. It was like everyone was pissed off about him going to the judge and starting this stuff. So.
Yeah, and it's really the start of where you start to realize that there's some sort of the word you hear a lot is chain of command on the show. Chain of command, hierarchy, pecking orders, and not going outside of the ranks, including talking to someone like a judge. Appears to be a big no-no in the police department. So let's see what's the next part there.
Well, McNulty, and we meet Wendell Pierce's character. We meet Bunk, right?
Bunk. Mm-hmm. So that's where they're talking about like the murder and everything, right? And then his Sergeant Jay comes in and tells him that the major's pissed off. And they have a conversation about when you get pissed off, you get sent where you don't want to go as a police officer. And they ask him, where don't you want to go? Right? Because he's kind of like know-it-all. I was like, oh, fuck it. I'll go back and be a beat cop. I don't care. I came from the streets. Oh, well, where don't you want to go? The boat. So thought that was interesting.
Okay, so I'm guessing that'll come back into play later.
So then I guess we start to get into like the street world, right?
Yeah, so we get to so now what's the name of the crew? Of Stringer Bell's crew?
The Barksdale crew.
Barksdale crew, they appear to own a couple Barksdale with a B. Yeah, Barksdale crew. They appear to own a couple of buildings, not own, but they move their product out of a couple of buildings in Baltimore. Not just blocks, but they seem to have control like housing projects too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's also where we get. It's also on the way. So Weebay is driving D'Angelo back, but that's also where we get that shot that I paused to tell you it was like one of my favorite shots in the whole show. That New York Fried Chicken shot. With the blue lights on the street corner with the car parked. So this show originally was put out in 4:3, and unless you're watching it in 4:3, you don't get to see that entire shot. Now that they've remastered it into widescreen digital for HBO in the last like 4 years, the aspect ratio is totally different. So you don't get to see that entire block anymore like you do in the version I was watching on the DVD versus I'm guessing what you were watching online, right?
Oh, yeah, I guess I wouldn't have known the difference, but yeah.
But just a beautiful shot, and this is like really, I think, the first time you see some organized crime mentality when D'Angelo is being brought back to their area, eBay, and Weebay stops the car to tell him no talking in the car.
I love that. I love that scene. That I mean, there's nothing more to say. It speaks for itself.
Did you get the sense at that point that D'Angelo was very low in the totem pole, or?
No, because they went through the trouble to save him from getting locked up. You know what I mean? So I know he was of some significance. I guess we come to learn that he's cousins with Wood Harris.
Nephew.
Okay. So, but no, I didn't get a sense he was alone in the totem pole. I got a sense he may have been a low competency character, like what he potential, but maybe he hasn't lived up to it or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I didn't think he was like a loser kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, low competency. That's the word I think that I was looking for. Yeah, just the way that he doesn't even know, and Weebay has to tell him like a couple times, no talking in the car, no talking in the car. And he's like, It was just you. And it's like, this guy just got out of jail and he's still not worried about cops.
Right. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Yeah, in the courtroom, even, I mean, he didn't seem very concerned. I mean, so.
So yeah, then we get to the club, right, where D'Angelo goes to see his uncle, and that's where we see that Stringer Bell and Avon, and they're pointing someone out. The guy to him is Orlando.
The guy down at the bar is Orlando? Is that
the guy that they were talking to when he said, "You want me to kick him out?"
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Says,
but who was the person they were trying to? Not that you have to tell me if I'll learn, but
that's the guy, I think.
Okay, he was enough significance. Okay.
No, I think the important thing there is the relationship is that there's a guy running the club, even though Avon's telling him what to do.
Gotcha.
But that's where we kind of get the whole relationship between Avon and D'Angelo, where we find out that they're nephews, that they're related, family. He talks a lot to him about family. And it's very ambiguous because he can't just outright say, yeah, we paid off that witness for you. We got you out of jail. And so it's just a matter of making sure that he understands that what just happened cost money from the organization standpoint. And now it's up to D'Angelo to pay that back. It's almost guilting him. He is guilty.
But I mean, I don't know it's responsibility, right? Because I don't know what he did to get himself. Oh, he killed somebody, right?
Well, he does talk about that, right? He says, kind of like you said, he's not competent. Avon tells D'Angelo how he fucked up. Apparently, the whole case was about some guy coming to D'Angelo with a gun in D'Angelo's drug building, but D'Angelo had a gun. D'Angelo also had muscle, but he freaked out and shot the guy. And that's what put him in jail.
In front of everybody.
Which I think is what put him in jail for, I think it was 8 months or something like that when the show was picking up that he's coming home.
So sometimes with shows like this, and that was kind of my hesitancy in watching it and taking so long to watch it, because you have to take off your regular TV story brain that, like, you know, it's procedural and it's very like cookie cutter. Like, for example, he got released for a murder. I just assumed in my regular TV story brain that was the same murder we saw in the beginning, in the opening scene, right? Because that's usually how things connect right away. So I had to shut that part of my brain off and be like, no, he's not locked up. This is something different. So I'm glad you reinforced that for me just now, because I almost forgot it again. So,
to ease your brain, I don't think his murder, who he murdered, plays any part in the show, just so that you're not trying to make any connections from there on out about who was the guy that he killed. It doesn't matter, other than the fact that D'Angelo now has a record, and he's on notice from the crew.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts about the strip club in general?
You know, nothing else stands out to me. What else happened in there besides that little talk he gave D'Angelo?
That was about it in that scene, but there is some more.
Okay,
that will happen.
All right.
During the whole show, basically, there's a shitstorm that starts happening. McNulty talks to the judge talks to the cops, from the top level of the police commissioner all the way down to the deputy ops, to the lieutenants, to the sergeants, to McNulty, the shit is rolling downhill, right? And I think that's what they say, right? Shit, piss, it all rolls.
He's like, piss doesn't roll. That was good. That kind of took me out of it. I was like, what are they talking about? But yeah.
And so there's this whole shitstorm going on of trying to find out, and you start to realize, right, how much they don't care about the actual people. You hear the lieutenant when he calls in McNulty into his office and tells him, "These are for you, McNulty. These are for you." And he uses a racial slur when talking about the guys that they're investigating, and you get a sense that nobody gives a fuck about the case. It's about the appearance, the ownership to your higher ups, and the statistics.
It's everyday work stuff. It's like not everyday work stuff, but like a lot of people's 9-to-5 stuff. They don't care about the actual work. It's like, all right, I just need to get this check. This
is a huge part of the show, as far as, and one of the cool things I think probably about having a former police officer help to write this show is to co-write the show, is that the lingo that they use is very, I don't know if it's authentic, but it's very consistent as a cop. And so things that they're talking about prior years' cases. Are you familiar with stuff like that? When they're talking
not in particular.
And prior years' cases. So what Rawls was essentially saying was, he's asking me about 4 murders. And then McNulty's saying, well, they did 10 or whatever. And he goes, 10, I've only got 4 here. And he goes, well, they did 10. We only charged them with 4.
4.
And he goes, what do you mean? So what that means is they know that this crew did 10, but they didn't have the evidence to bring a charge for the other murders. They could only charge 4 of the murder. But they know that they did 10. And when Rawls asks, what are the 10? And McNulty starts reeling them off, and he says that one from last summer, that's when Rawls goes, I don't even care. That's last summer. The numbers are already done. There's no murder rate that changes from the previous year. We're worried about right now. So they're getting their balls busted about a murder rate number.
That's not even going to affect their... Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they can't. It's not... no one ever reports,
okay,
hey, the murder clearance rate is down and murders have gone up 12%. But good news, 2 murders from 2002 have been solved. And so the murder rate just dropped.
Not even solved, though. We charged. We added more murders to the old rate. Yeah. It's interesting when you put it that way. I didn't really register that conversation and that was happening. Like, I heard the numbers and I'm remembering now that you pointed out, but I didn't realize, okay, that's Rawls' motivation. This is where he's coming from. He's like, why are you busting my balls about this old murder? That's not going to help either of us get a promotion or whatever it is, So
and so he doesn't care about who did it. He doesn't care about who got murdered. He doesn't care about the family of the victims. There's no aspect of the actual murder that this police officer cares about in any way. And he's the asshole of the show.
Interesting, because he didn't come off that way to me right away. But with that context, now I know why. Now I know what you mean.
Even when he called the guy a project nigger?
I mean, honestly, I assume that police officers just kind of casually use slurs.
So. White guys just use that slang.
For police officers specifically, but yeah.
Oh, that's great. So I think that's when McNulty actually admits that he doesn't want to go to the harbor unit, the Marine unit. But
that's the boat.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. That's cool. So do we get a boat season? Is there a harbor season?
So you really know nothing about this show?
Nah, man. All I know is people dislike season 2 versus the other ones. That's the only thing I know.
All right, we'll talk about it when we get there.
All right. I just imagine it's like, what's that show with Hulk Hogan on the black Thunder in Paradise? I imagine
Thunder in Paradise. Yeah.
Just in Baltimore Harbor, though.
Big prototype computer boat, the whole thing. So the crew takes D'Angelo to his new area, the pit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's where we find out that Ronnie Moe is uptown, and D'Angelo is taking the spot. But D'Angelo first went to the towers. these names are these names of these buildings are sort of important.
It sounds like there's different hierarchy. It's like the towers is going to where's the pit? Is it the motion from the towers, right?
Right. And just the name of it, right? The pit versus the towers. For anything, it sounds worse. But we meet the whole crew down there, and we realize that they're not doing anything very well, right? D'Angelo.
It's Michael B. Jordan of Black Panther fame. I recognize them right away.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's easy to recognize him there.
But when you see him, and it's like, I don't know, when I watch it now, and I have a hard time, just because he's such a star, I have a hard time remembering that he's not actually Black Panther. But everyone is always so Wakanda when they see him, and it's like, no, he's the bad guy in the.
That's funny.
And so it always, but at the same time, he's such a big star. So the whole point of that is that when I see Michael B. Jordan, I have a little bit of sense of like pride, because in my head I go, that whole Black Panther thing was such a black movement. It was such an exciting time that's the feelings I get whenever I see Michael B. Jordan. I'm always happy now to support any film that he does, because I dig him. Plus, he did the whole thing down here in Philly with the smoothie.
Oh, this was during the filming of Creed?
Yeah. And he invited some girls down to Temple to come. I
remember that, yeah.
And I thought that was such a nice thing. And I'm just very excited about him. But when I see him as this 14, 15-year-old boy, and he looks, quite honestly, like he's 7. He looks so much.
Yeah, he looks like 7 years old for real.
He's supposed to be in high school at this point.
Really? That's interesting, because usually they get older actors and cast them as younger. But he looks his age or younger. So
yeah, he looks, and definitely with the group, he looks better than the other two, than Poot and Bodie. But yeah, so Michael B. Jordan, when I look at him, I go, this guy's a huge fucking star. What's he doing? This grainy 2002 video TV show. So you get to see the crew, you get to see how they're moving drugs. I don't know. It's pretty interesting, because I've never seen anyone teach someone how to sell drugs before.
So the thing with him serving at the same spot where
So the way that they're serving is all screwed up. The guy's taking the money, then he's yelling out to another guy that someone's running over and getting the drugs, and then they're handing it right to him, right out there. And it's funny, because this show is called The Wire. So obviously the show is about some sort of
surveillance.
And here in the very first episode, when there isn't any surveillance, D'Angelo is already worried about it.
We did see a scene of someone surveilling, didn't we? Am I misremembering? Wasn't there one?
We did see Kima.
Who's that? Okay.
Saw
female officer.
Yeah, that was Kima with Herc and Carver. And they were surveilling someone. They had a CI in the car telling them about a drug deal going down, and then they did the drug bust and arrested the guy.
Right.
And you get a sense of, I want to go back to the pit thing in a second, but we'll finish talking about Kima. You get a sense of Herc and Carver and Kima. That is the narcotics department.
Okay, so they're the ones on the street, but doing all the busts, basically.
And
so what's
McNulty? You'll get it.
I got to keep thinking Nick Nolte. That's how I'm going to remember.
Yes.
But McNulty is a detective. What's his
homicide
detective? Okay. See, yes. Okay, now it's all coming together. I'm getting the picture. All right.
So him, Bunk.
They're both homicide detectives. Yep.
They're both homicide. The real heavy sergeant that busts his balls. That's his homicide. That's the homicide sergeant. Rawls is
Sergeant Rawls. Yeah. But Sergeant Rawls isn't the boss of the narcotics department, because they're a completely different squad.
Correct.
Got it.
Do you get any sense about Herc and Carver, the two guys that were with Kima, the girl, in the whole drug bust? They talk a lot about police brutality, and they're the gun.
We'll say that one more time.
They missed the second gun in the car. Did you catch that?
Oh yeah. She's kind of like. I don't want to say she's the brains of the operation, because she's more than that. But they get back to the whole competency levels. She's the most, and then they seem to be they enjoy the thrills of being on the street, but they don't necessarily thorough with their job, from what I could tell. Yeah.
Very TV show cop-esque,
Yeah.
Where's my gun? When do I get my gun?
Carl Winslow. Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to the pit because that's
Okay.
that's one of the scenes that plays out. So during this time, we also meet Bubbles and his buddy John,
Bubbles.
and they are the drug addicts.
Yes. Okay. I know dude from Empire. That's the only thing I know. That
Oh,
other
which guy?
The black guy. The black drug addict.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's also in. I told you he's also in Shaft with Kima in the 2000 Shaft.
Mm-hmm.
The white guy is from Kids.
Oh, really? Who was he in Kids?
He's the other guy. Is it not Casper? The other guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't remember the names, but yeah,
in that one, but can't remember his name. But yeah, he's the guy that's not Casper. Tully, that's his name. Tully. He's Tully.
Okay.
I think he's the one that's trying to get with Rosario Dawson.
All right. So those guys are counterfeit. Not even counterfeit. They have fake money.
They have like a couple real bills and then white paper printed money. And they're
stained with coffee.
Yeah, stained with coffee. So it's clear that Bubbles is the experienced drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the phrase that he uses is that he's trying to get his buddy brown because his buddy's green right now. And so he's trying to teach him how to scam to get drugs every day. And so they do the scam first time. It works. What did you think about Bubbles and Johnny? And that's where you see them getting high when they run the scam the first time. And a super close-up shot of Bubbles and Johnny, and you're seeing them kind of like spit all over themselves, and they're like blowing bubbles in their mouth, and they're kind of half passed out.
Yeah.
It's all very close shots. And then they completely widen out, and you see that they're in like two little, like a love seat and a little chair by the window in this abandoned room. Did that all like play out to you at all, or that might be see on the fifth watch?
Yeah, maybe it's something. Yeah, I don't know. I was just really trying to follow along. I didn't know the way I watch things, which is a bad way to watch things. I'm always trying to guess. All right, what's about to happen? What's the payoff of the scene? So I'm thinking TV. Is somebody about to overdose? What's the payoff of this? Because we know they're addicts, problem behavior, so it's got to be more than they're addicts. So I'm just trying to think what's the scene trying to tell me about them. So and it kind of told me who's a mentor, who's a mentee, and didn't it end with not Bubbles but the white addict? What's his name? Johnny. Didn't it kind of end with Johnny asking to do the scheme next time? Didn't that how the scene end? So I think that was kind of to set up what's going to happen later.
So now that'll take us to hit, but prior to that, D'Angelo realizes that's when he's kind of getting to know everyone a little bit, and you see Bodie, the kid that spits, the bald-headed kid. He's kind of like the tough one of the group, and they're all sitting on this couch. And this is when D'Angelo realizes that the money's not real. Now, did you catch? You may not have caught this. It probably took me a third time to catch this. D'Angelo is you're assuming the smart one of the group. He's going to lead these kids. He's got to be at least 5 years, maybe even 10 years older than these guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he realizes that they've been burnt, as he says, they have a conversation, and the guy says, like Michael B. Jordan says, huh? And D'Angelo says, huh? Look at this. And he shows him the dollar bill, and Michael B. Jordan says, he's got a president on him, don't he? And he goes, what's that mean? And he goes, you can't be president. You can't get your name on a dollar bill.
Unless you're president.
I think the phrasing that D'Angelo says to them is, don't no white man get their face on no legal motherfucking tender except be president. What is on the $100 bill?
It's Jefferson, right?
It's Ben Franklin.
Oh, Franklin.
When did Ben Franklin become president of the United States?
Mm-hmm.
Boom. That took me 3 times watching the show.
Well, I caught that right away. Yeah, I'm like, not everybody on money is a president. But I mean, I thought the conversation was amazing because you just assume that as in that situation. But no, I didn't remember who it was, but I knew somebody was not a president. I don't know why I said Jefferson. Well, was Jefferson a president, or is Jefferson not on the bill?
Jefferson's on the 2.
He's on it too. Okay.
On a $2 bill.
Yeah, that's right. He's on too. Go ahead.
This is their new leader.
Mm-hmm.
Coming to school, and he's teaching them about money, and nobody knows who's on the
$100 bill. Interesting. So you're saying specifically they've never seen that high of a tender? Are you saying that's significant?
Either that or they know nothing about D'Angelo talks. D'Angelo has a history of talking without knowing what he's talking about.
Gotcha.
It seems there's a few times when he's going to give pep talks like this.
Okay.
Just go. And again, I think it took me a few times watching it to go, doesn't even fucking make sense. Why would they do that? They're trying to build this character. Why would they build this guy? I mean, they really are almost building D'Angelo like a total fucking moron.
Okay, well, what do you want to go to next? Because he makes a decision based on the money situation that
Johnny?
Well, yeah, Johnny gets beat up. Johnny gets attacked. But I mean, that wasn't his intention, right? He was a little conflicted on what he wanted to do. There was something going on there.
Yes. I have the advantage of knowing about monologues that come later in the season. But
yeah.
they are definitely trying to position D'Angelo of just being a separate type of mindset than the organized gang mindset.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of got this way, and maybe D'Angelo sees it a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah, they made that kind of clear from he wasn't. Yeah, they made that clear. I'll leave it at
that. And they beat his ass.
And then the chain reaction causes the other crackhead. Sorry, what's his name?
Yeah.
Bubbles. I almost said Spoonie. Bubbles to snitch. Basically, he does. I mean, he's already a confidential informant. It sounds like he has a relationship with the cop. Yeah. So now, and now this situation has angered him to the point where he wants to inform on the gang that's operating out of the. What is it called?
The pit.
No, the pit. Out of the pit.
Yeah.
So he's gonna be a CI in the pit. Sounds like.
It does seem that way. And the last, I guess, the only other thing that we had was the FBI McNulty. And this, every time I watch it, this is where I go, oh, this is just too much. He goes to visit his FBI buddy, and that's when they're calling each other brother the whole time. And he's showing him the live video footage of the guys cooking up the drugs on the table, bagging up the crack on the table. That has nothing to do with the show in any way, other than to know that he has a buddy in the FBI, and the FBI was focused on drugs.
But they moved on to 9/11.
Since 9/11, now the pressure is terrorism. That's all that 9-minute scene means to anyone.
I thought it was a good scene though. I liked it because it set up because it brought me back to the time frame because I needed that context too, So
all right, that's good then. Every time I see it, I just go, "This is one too many." I can't believe how many.
I mean, maybe they didn't be 9 minutes. I didn't know it was 9 minutes, but
I always try and put myself in the place of the viewer for the first time, and so I'm going, "Is this too many? Is this too many characters? Too many locations?" It
definitely felt overwhelming, but I will say that scene stood out to me because I'm like, it's establishing me the capability. I mean, just because it's an old show, right? I need to know the capabilities of technology at the time. It's establishing that for me, and it's establishing that he has a friend in the FBI, like you said, and it also motivates McNulty to go to, because he talks to his partner. He's like, we need this shit and we need that shit. Not his partner. He talks to the task force. Excuse me. He's like, we need this and we should be having this and this. So it I liked it for those reasons. I thought it would serve the purpose.
And then I guess the last thing is we can kind of get into like the formation of the crew, but essentially the head of narcotics pulls in Daniels, who we meet who's pretty like a straight shooter, seems like, right?
Yeah.
So narcotics pulls in Daniels and says, listen, this McNulty guy, fuck you all. This is a drug dealer who kills people. So narcotics and homicide are both going to be responsible. You got to put together a super team to catch this guy. But nobody believes this guy exists except McNulty. McNulty is the only guy. And so what they've done is they've combined pretty much the most of the characters except for Bunk. They've taken Kima and Herc and Carver and Daniels, and they've taken McNulty, and they took one more cop from Homicide, the guy with the white hair. and they put them.
And there's a couple lawyers too, right, or something
And
involved.
there's also a lawyer there. Yep, and they put them together to say figure this out. But I think they gave them like a deadline. They said like just do it real quick. No one believes that this guy is real. Obviously, because the show is the show, we know that this guy is going to be real. But as of now, McNulty's the only guy that believes that there's any danger, there's any criminal mastermind. And that's the other thing. All the police completely underestimate this crew. No one even believes that it's even real. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Either that or they're apathetic to it. Yeah.
They call him a mope. They're very sarcastic when they call him this. I think they say something like, yesterday or 2 days ago, no one even knew who this guy was. Now he's some criminal mastermind or criminal genius. And so it's very like tongue in cheek about who this guy is, Avon.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry. Thank you for clarifying that for me. I wasn't sure who they were trying to catch, Avon or Stringer Bell. I didn't know, but Stringer Bell in context, it wouldn't make sense because he wouldn't be in the court and also front facing if he was actually committing murders. So.
And the other thing they say is that they don't, when McNulty asks, like the part of the reason why this is going to be so hard, what do we know about this guy, Avon Barksdale? Nothing. They don't even know, they don't have a date of birth. They don't know what he looks like. They don't know anything about Wood Harris's character in any way.
Avon Barksdale, so that's why they're the Barksdale crew, because it's his last name.
Right.
All these things I did not pick up on. Okay.
That's
cool.
And these are things that you can get your brain can take up so much space to wonder about this scene or this character and who's important and what you have to take with you and what you need to analyze, that some of the stuff that, is like real simple, you almost forget because you're so preoccupied with harder stuff about the show. So it's fun talking about it, and why it took me like 3 times watching it to get so many things about the show.
After this conversation, I may rewatch episode 1. I'm thinking about it.
And then I think the last thing is we see Bunk and McNulty drinking. That's the train. That's they're kind of talking about.
That scene was so tense, man. That was so beautifully done. The way they timed the train, like there's no reason why he would die there and kill himself, but I don't know, man. Why are they? It's got to be a omen or a foreshadowing or something, because the fact that they have that train there, the way they cut it together, the tension they built, that was intentional. I don't know.
Let me ask you this. Why just in a normal, if you saw a guy in the middle of the night with a bottle of booze standing in front of a train, what would you think about that guy?
He's a drunk about to get himself killed.
But deeper than that, what would you think about him? Beyond that, I don't know what. About his mental state, about who he is as a person, about what would you think about that
guy? I don't know. I'm not sure.
He's off the fucking rails.
And you think McNulty's off the rails, huh?
That's what I think that is. Is the guy's a cop. He's drunk in the middle of the night. He's standing on the train tracks. He's pondering about this case. And then what's he say? I'm going to do this fucking case. His partner tells him, right? Buy and get out. It's buy and bust. It's quick and easy. That's another great police term, buy and bust, that they kind of throw around the show a lot. No one wants this investigation. So the task force has been assembled. No one wants to be there. They all want to be back in their normal desks, doing their normal narcotics and homicide work, worrying about the numbers. No one wants to chase this guy. McNulty's saying right then and there, I'm going to fucking do this case. No one else on the show is going to do this case.
Interesting.
So I think, upon rewatching it over and over, I think it's just more of a statement about his mental condition, about the type of person that he is, about how unstable of a person that he is.
Okay. All right. I didn't know what it was, but I just knew I felt something from that scene. Like the train coming, it was like one of that, and then the conversation in the car. I think those were the 2 scenes that stood out to me the most. Just, like turn it off. What's the first thing that you remember,
What conversation in the car?
Where he stops, pulls over, and tells him no talking in the car. Like the fact that he took the time to pull over. Like I thought that was really good.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about it, except
All
for
right.
the very end.
With the murder, right?
With the murder, when D'Angelo is standing in the background of the crowd and there's someone down, they roll him over. And it's one of the few times the show uses flashback, but I'm glad they do because there's so many characters that this is like the fourth character you see in the show when it starts. It's the witness.
You're not going to remember.
Yeah, it's the witness from the murder case that he's acquitted from.
Mm-hmm. Now, he doesn't look, he also looks conflicted about that, right? So he didn't know that was going to happen, clearly, it seems like. Right. Or maybe he did, and then, I don't know, and he's getting out of Dodge. But I thought that was interesting, his reaction.
Situation.
Yeah.
And I don't know, logic would say, why does someone get killed after the guy's already been acquitted?
Teach a lesson. Message. Don't snitch against us.
There you go. So you already have a hang on street code on the show. It's very, very important. And just having an idea about that is going to give you a leg up on people's motives.
Okay. So going into episode 2, I'm going to pay closer attention to Rawls because his motivation clearly went over my head. So I'm going to go make sure I pay attention to him. Sure. And then the dynamic between the narcotics detectives. I want to pay attention to that too. So that's my takeaways for episode 2.
Now, when we were first talking on the phone before we zoomed up, you said you had like some questions, and I said, wait, save it. What questions do you have now that we've kind of talked through it all? What questions do you have? Even if it's the whole list. Any questions you have, I'm figuring anyone else that's watching for the first time is going to have questions too. So,
you went through it all so thoroughly that you answered most of them. So it was, what's the deal? The detective. What's the deal with the detective? Why is he? I was trying to understand why it was more than just my boss is mad at me because of you, and now you gave me the context of numbers and all that stuff. I didn't get what's going on with the club with the dude they kicked out, but you said that wasn't really significant. What else we got here? That was pretty much it. Yeah, those are the only things I really were confused about. Everything else was just kind of a lot of characters to keep up with. And then, I was pretty good at Game of Thrones and keeping up with all those characters. So the fact that I felt overwhelmed by this right away, I was like, all right. So
now that's interesting because in Game of Thrones, everyone's name sounds the same.
That's true. Yeah.
The hardest thing for me was I couldn't tell the names apart until the second or third season.
Breen.
Tyrion, Tyrell, Tywin.
Yeah. That makes it easier for me to remember, actually, because it's just a slight distinction between the names.
Versus... I didn't even talk about different people. The only guy I knew was an individual was John.
But, all right, so I know Avon is a key player now. And then I know Barksdale, the crew is named after him, after his last name.
There is one last piece of this and one more character I think we left out, and that was the dancer in the club. Right, dancer in there that asked him if he wants to get a drink.
I didn't realize she was a character. I thought it was this conversation. Okay, so she's a character, and then he was like some other time. Okay.
I had a question. Oh, do you think at some point, and maybe just now to start, for you, I think it would be fun if you make your own crime map.
Like I put out the key players and stuff like that. Like, that's interesting. I'm definitely down to do that.
That would be fun if you just start jotting down the names and try and draw their connections. That's going to be a big theme of the show. Every season, there's going to be kind of like a crime board where they're trying to make the connections because they know so little. It would be interesting if you can keep up with them and draw your own.
I'm going to do that. We can
share that.
You're just going to have to help me with the names, but I might forget some of the names. But
because
I will say, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to move on to something else. So that's what I was going to say.
I was going to say, at the end of the day, this is a story about organized crime under the shield of poverty, racism, classism, all those isms and prejudices that go with inner cities. At the end of the day, it's all about organized crime and connections of what's the word? Entities, not entities, but like systems. Systems, police systems, drug crime systems, how everyone operates, things that make them tick, motivations, all of that. And as the show goes on, more systems will be added to the show.
Okay. All right.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say just, going 1 for 1, rating a pilot against a pilot or episode 1 versus episode 1. This is how I'm judging The Wire. I got to give Breaking Bad the edge for having a better episode 1. Just if that's what the benchmark is. So
yeah, way more action. Now, watching this, if you were watching this by yourself, we weren't doing a podcast for it, would you keep going watching episode 2 if you watched that episode?
I don't know. Not right away, because it's the dialogue with you, and then you showing me me talking it out with you helped me see kind of the story that's unfolding, because I was lost on what I'm supposed to be caring about. But talking about with you now, I have a good grasp on it all. So I want to say no. But again, using Game of Thrones as another example, I remember the first time I tried to watch that, I was like, I couldn't get through the first 2. I was like, there's too much going on. So with a large ensemble cast, I think it takes me personally a long time to get a feel for everything. So I don't think it has anything to do with the quality of the show. I think it's just my personal viewing habits. So if it was like a smaller cast, I'm easier to jump into something like that. So
sure. That is what most people say. So I'm glad that we're doing this like this, so that you do keep watching, because I do think eventually it'll pay off for you. But I do think most people say the show is the first episode, and I think some of the first season is too slow for them. Too slow, too many storylines for them to keep track. And I think 9 times out of 10, people just quit.
No, I'm definitely bought in now. Like, I'm just very curious where everybody's character's going, and there are some spoilers that I know of just because they're infamous spoilers. So like, I know it's not till seasons down the road, but I'm curious to see how they build to those things. So yeah.
All right. Well, any other questions on The Wire then before we?
No other questions, but I think we don't gotta do it now, but we should come. Nah, it's too early for me to make any predictions. But I say we should come up with some. I like the whiteboard. I like the crime board thing. I was gonna say that might be it though. We should come up with some sort of game to play before every episode. I don't know if it's trivia. Like, I was thinking, how many MCU characters were in this episode, right? So there's Heimdall, there's Killmonger. MCU, Marvel. Yeah, Marvel. Okay. But I don't know, just something silly.
Stringer, Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, I think that might be it, just those 2. But no,
the 2 black guys.
Oh shit! Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Yeah,
all these characters are in Law and Order SVU.
Really? Everybody's going through that show once, right?
And they all play the same character. Like, all those. We met Levy, right? We met the white lawyer, the Jewish lawyer. He's the lawyer he's the bad guy
in every SVU episode. Awesome.
Also, a weird dichotomy, and this will play out better for you guys later, but both McNulty and Lieutenant Rawls, the cop and his lieutenant, are son and father-in-law in the Showtime show The Affair. So
okay.
They have kind of an at odds relationship in The Wire, and it's a very similar type of relationship in The Affair.
The Affair.
Yeah, if you're into doing some double Dominic West, there you go.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah, that was fun. So looking forward to episode 2 and talking about it.
Sweet.
All right.